كله زي الفل. انت عامل ايه؟
كله كويس كله كويس الحمد لله.
كله تمام. انت انا معلش اتلخبطت في الوقت، افتكرت مش عارف ليه افتكرت الساعة، اتلخبطت في التايم زونز، حقك عليا.
لا لا عادي، لا دي يعني يعني بتحصل كتير، عادي عادي.
ايوه ايوه ايوه. خلاص، جميل جميل.
الو الو. ايوه سامعك كده.
تمام.
الصوت كان راح ورجع تاني.
اوكي لا، ان شاء الله انا النت عندي كويس، ان شاء الله الحوار ده ما يحصلش تاني. انا عامة عندي موضوع كده في زوم ساعات.
الصوت راح تاني. الو. كده رجع كده.
هو صوتي بيروح خالص وبعد كده يرجع.
الاوديو راح ودلوقتي رجع تاني. راح تاني. الو 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 الو. مش سامع.
الو، كده سامعني؟ الو
الو.
الو، سامعني؟
اسف، سامعك كده.
كده كويس صح؟
كده احسن بكتير.
خلاص
و...
تمام. اللي انا عملته ان
و...
انا دخلت من موبايلي، وهخلي هخلي زوم كده،
اه
فالفيديو هيبقى على
لا
اللابتوب
لا،
والاوديو على
وصوتك
الموبايل.
اوضح وصوتك اوضح. الصوت
حلو
قبل
حلو،
كده
يعني
كان
دلوقتي
كنت حاسس فيه باك جراوند نويز كتير.
طيب. لا خلاص كده تمام. انا عندي مشكلة عامة في اللابتوب بتاعي في زوم بقالها فترة، بس
لا لا لا،
hopefully
مش مشكلة.
uh,
لا لا، كده اتس
hopefully this
بيرفكت كده.
goes well. خلاص perfect. اللي انا كنت بسأله لك، تحب kind of go over احنا عايزين نتكلم عن ايه، ولا نخش في الموضوع على طول and just take it from there؟
as you wish، يعني انت you're the boss. انت
Okay.
however you
I
see يعني it is، انا معاك.
خلاص I love just jumping right in and kind of just
يلا
keeping the
بينا.
conversation raw.
يلا بينا.
خلاص amazing. Okay, so I'll start. Helmy, thank you for coming out on Thalassains Podcast. Um, I'm grateful that you agreed to join this podcast. So again, thank you for
My
that.
pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Jamil. So Helmy, I always want to start by asking whoever I'm hosting on the podcast about their life. So I wanted to ask you, Yani, you're a Guinness World Record holder, environmental engineer. You are in the environmental scene in Egypt for a long time now, where it hasn't been that big there in the last مثلا 5 years, but you've been around. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what is your life experience? إيه اللي حصل في حياتك اللي خلاك to get kind of where you are right now, and what kind of intrigued you or made you decide to look at our Earth like that, and was there like a moment that made you think like, my life should be all about kind of like sustainable or like environmentally conscious ideas. So what was it that kind of got you where you are today?
والله it was يعني, in my opinion, it's يعني purely serendipitous and chance. يعني if I'm gonna go back to يعني maybe 10 years to when I was in university, which I think was the start or the spark of what got me interested in nature and the environment and sustainability and all these things. When I used to go to university, everyone would take I went to university in Canada,
Amazing.
in
Okay.
Montreal, So during the winter, it was very cold. Everyone wanted to take the metro to university. Anna, I wasn't a big fan of the metro. It was crowded. I liked the idea of the cold, من ناحية that I wanted to experience a temperature that I have never experienced before. And I was all about experiences. I wanted to experience new things. فمثلا, let's say that the temperature went down to -40, I would go out just to feel what -40 is. ماشي? As a way of learning about the world. During winter, everyone would be using the metro, but I was really interested in the weather and just I was very excited to be in Canada and experiencing these new things. So I would walk to campus, which was maybe around 20 minutes, 20-minute walk. Not that far, but in -30 وكده, it was my friends would say I was crazy doing it.
Crazy for doing that.
Yeah, imagine for walking 20 minutes in the -30, and I wouldn't be wearing the boost or anything like that. I was a big fan of wool, and I was just wear 3 layers of wool. I would wear wool, as a base layer, wood as a mid layer, and wood as a jacket. So anyway, I'd be walking to university in the winter, and the winter turned into summer, and I'm like, everyone was using bikes instead of walking, so I'm like, why don't I use a bike to go to university? It'd be quicker, and at the same time I can go around the city and explore more. So I was a student, so I didn't have a big allowance. I was still studying, so I couldn't afford a bike straight away. So I had to kind of buy the bike like part by part every month. So I started out by buying the frame, and then I'd buy the wheels, and then I'd buy the handlebar, until over 4 months, I put together a bicycle, which I was just watching YouTube videos and doing it, by hand. And if anything I didn't know how to do, I'd go to the shop and they'd help me out. So I built my own bicycle, and I started going to university with it. I'd go around, do my groceries, and then slowly, I started doing, larger distances to, areas outside of the city, to the next, and then it turned to the next city, and then I'd be going on these weekend trips with my bicycle, travel like 30-40 kilometers out of town, spend the night, and then come back, and I felt very free, and I was very happy that I was using the bicycle, as it opened up my way to travel, which I also like to do. And it was basically like free travel, because I wasn't paying for a bus or a ticket or anything. I was just going around Montreal for free on my bike. And then I started thinking, like, what if I do even longer distances than just like 40-50 kilometers? Why don't I go to a town that's pretty far, that could take me the whole way to go? So my sister was studying in Italy, and I went there. I took my bike and I visited her. I stayed with her for a little bit, and then I decided to cycle from Rome until Milan.
Wow.
Yeah, which was at the time was around like 600 kilometers, but to me it was like, oh my god, this is huge, big, such a big deal, and like, what am I gonna do? And so I started to plan it, and I was really interested in travel, so I wanted to see Italy. um, and at that time I was really into human power. So after I built the bike with on my own, I got this kind of confidence that, like, humans can kind of do. I built a bike just by watching YouTube videos, and I didn't think I could. And then I took my bike 40 kilometers. So I just had this kind of confidence where I just believed in human uh, capabilities, and what a human is capable of. And I started reading these books about early humans and explorers, and what they went through to kind of discover new things, and discover not just places but things that people can do, that they thought they previously couldn't. So I was very inspired by these stories. So anyway, went to Italy, and I started my cycling to Milan, from Rome to Milan, which is around 600 kilometers, and I ended up, finishing it, which I didn't think I could. I did it in around 2 weeks, so I was like doing around 50 kilometers a day, and then I arrived, and I remember being like, "Oh my God, I just crossed half of Italy on my bike." uh this is crazy. Like, I never in a million years would I thought I could do this.
That's
Just
crazy.
cycle across half a country, and then Milan was really up north, so it was really close to Switzerland, and I could see the Swiss border, and I'm like, if I just had another 2 days, I could have been in Switzerland. I could do multiple countries. So then I came back, and I was super inspired. I went back to university, and my last year, and I was super inspired by what I have accomplished, what I thought I could do. And I'm like, I'm gonna travel like this. My for my graduation trip, I'm gonna travel all around Europe on my bicycle, take the whole continent this time. um, and I was just super inspired by my own personal accomplishment of this physical feat, as well as you know uh, because I love travel, and I was really interested in nature at the time. I also became intrigued about, hey, the bicycle can be used as a form of transportation, not just going to university or going to your shop, but it could be used to travel multiple like across the whole continent without using gas, without using, basically without polluting the environment. And
Yeah.
not just polluting the environment, you're bettering yourself as well, because you're doing like a physical activity, so it's good for fitness. So I was just like, this is perfect. I'm traveling. It's not as expensive because I'm saving everything on the transportation costs, which are the most expensive. I'm not using any gas. I'm becoming fitter. I'm building more muscle, and having better endurance. And I'm seeing things that I don't think I would have seen if I used a bus or anything, because I'm passing through
Of
all these
course.
villages and small cities and towns, and I'm seeing the real country, not just big cities. And on top of that as well, even if I was traveling with, let's say, a car, okay, an electric car, okay, just to get something more sustainable, I would still be enclosed in that car, and I wouldn't have the luxury of smelling and feeling. Like on the bike, you smell everything. You're outdoors, so I'm smelling everything. I'm feeling the wind and the different temperatures, and you are just outside. You are not in an enclosed environment. So it was just, I just found it fascinating. Just everything about it was perfect. So from that, I crossed Europe from north to south. I started in Norway and above the Arctic Circle in the summer. So it was 24 hours of sunlight there. and I went all the way down to Spain to Tarifa, which is the southernmost point of Europe.
Yeah.
So I crossed the whole continent from the northern to the southern in maybe around 3 months. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Can't wait to travel the whole world like this. And I became even more fascinated about, nature, environment, sustainability, and everything because of all the things I mentioned before. So I came back to Egypt. I worked a little bit, and by pure chance, my family business is involved in dredging, which is basically a concept which is used for like protecting coastlines from climate change, cleaning up rivers and lakes and things like this. There's it's lots of multiple different applications for dredging, but it's an environmental um, like business. So I came back. I worked with them a little bit, and I got a bit more experience in the environmental field from a job perspective, like well, the effects of climate change, what's happening to our coastlines. The Mediterranean coastline is going to be shifting back. The lakes around the all in the delta are all shrinking. It's just a bunch of problems that are happening that we're aware of, and the solutions to solve all this. So after that, I worked a little bit in that field, and I decided that I wanted to travel again and on my bike. I'd missed it, and so I prepared another trip to go to Asia, to travel around Asia on my bike. So I did the same as I did in Europe, but I did it in Asia. Went through 7 different countries in Southeast Asia, so many different cultures, and saw different tasted different foods, met a lot of different people. And then after I did that, I've been so used to traveling with my bike, I just couldn't travel without my bike anymore. And I was still also curious about human power and human capabilities, which I was talking about before, about what I feel I personally can achieve physically. And at the time, I had started talking to. I was in Canada, so it's cold there and snow, and
Oh.
one of the things that I was doing there was cross country skiing. So I wasn't just doing the bicycle, but I was also I found it interesting, the cross country skiing. Cross country skiing, of course, right?
Of course, yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting. I tried it
yeah,
once.
yeah.
I'm more of a
Everyone does it there.
snowboarder. Yeah,
Everyone
yeah, a
does it
lot of
there.
people,
Everyone, literally. So
especially when there is no mountains. It's really
yes,
nice. It's
exact,
in the flats.
exact,
Yeah, yeah.
exact. So on the flat. So I was doing there. I was doing that a lot, basically, and I really liked it, and I wanted to continue it. So I had been talking with this like guy in Sweden who coaches people from like non-traditional ski countries to like do it better and like get to a kind of like an Olympic level. So one of my goals was to kind of like get qualified into the Winter Olympics, to have Egypt into the Winter Olympics for the first time, because we don't have snow. So like it doesn't make sense that we're in the Winter Olympics, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to like qualify us, just I didn't care about winning. I just wanted to just get in it and have Egypt's name in it. So by pure chance, this coach, he was also doing cycling. So like he loved cycling as well, and when I met him for like to help me with the skiing, we started talking. We found ourselves just talking about cycling, not skiing. So it turned out that he had crossed the US on bike, and like he was doing all these crazy things on the bicycle as well. So we just connected straight away, and we decided that we should do like a little bike trip together, and not just a normal bike trip, but something that we were looking at crossing Europe again, and how a lot of people do it every year. So we're looking at what's the fastest that it has ever been done. So we found the world record for it, the Guinness World Record for it, and we decided, hey, I think we can break this. It's doable if we plan it right and everything. It's pretty doable. So we decided to do that, and we gathered the team. We were a team of 5, and we were doing it to raise awareness about child autism, because one of our team members, his son had autism. So we were raising money for his charity. So then I crossed Europe from east to west in fastest time. We broke the record, and I came back to Cairo. I was even more inspired. I'm like, hey, I was barely doing 40 kilometers a day when I first started this, and now I'm doing 230 kilometers every day, and I'm breaking records, and I'm not even sporty, and like, how did this all come to be? And like, I was just super inspired of where I am in life and what am I doing and what's there to be in the future, and these kind of things. So I came back, and I really wanted to do something again. By the way, if you have any questions or anything, you can stop me from talking and ask.
I'm listing
Yeah,
them down. I'm just
yeah,
waiting. I have so many
yeah,
questions.
yeah. So after I came back, I'm super inspired by everything, and then I'm like, I want to do something again. Human power, sustainable, no gas, same concept, like of my previous trips. But I said I don't want to use the bike. I want to do something different. The bike has started becoming really popular in Egypt. A lot of people have been, going around Egypt with bikes and so forth. So I didn't want to be redundant. So I said, what's, the most basic form of, travel from a person just walking, or like, going from one place to another. How what's the most basic form for someone to do that? And then I just figured that it's walking. If I
Yeah,
want to go
it's simply
from
walking.
here to here, yeah, it's simply walking. There's nothing more basic than that. Everyone does it, you know, and it's the most sustainable thing. You're just taking yourself from here to there. You're not, neither a bike, neither anything, nothing. You
Yeah,
know,
literally zero footprint.
literally nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
So I decided, hey, I'm gonna walk across Egypt. So I said I'm gonna gather a team, and I gathered the team, and then it took a while, and then we made sure we had a woman with us as well for the diversity and everything, and we set our goal to cross Egypt on foot, walking from Aswan to Cairo.
Wow.
And same as well as my previous things, in the matter of I like to have like a physical goal as well, like human power kind of goal. So I said we're going to do an average of a marathon a day. So we were going to walk an average, we're going to walk a marathon every day, basically, to keep things, pushing ourselves, to keep us pushing ourselves.
Yeah.
And same as my last thing, that I was doing it for a cause. So we were working with the UNFPA, which deal with population growth. As you know, Egypt has a large population and it's growing
Yeah.
rapidly, and it's actually impacting things like pollution and sustainability and things like that, because we have so many cars, we
Big
have
time.
so much waste and all that. So the government is trying to basically let people plan their family better. So instead of having 6 to 7 kids, you should have 2 to 3 kids, for example. So we were going around talking about all these things, about population, about family planning, about gender equality, and about also some, really sensitive topics, and in basically southern Egypt, like FGM and the child marriages
Yeah.
yeah, things that are big problems. So we ended up walking the whole thing, and we'd be stopping and giving these like speeches in these different villages about these issues, and yeah, and we crossed that,
Just
and
bringing awareness to, yeah, that's
exactly, we're raising
amazing.
awareness about these
Yeah,
issues basically, and we'd get into conversations with the local people there about and yeah, so we finished it. We crossed like from Aswan to Cairo, and none of us could
Cairo
believe it. And yeah,
on
and
foot.
then we on foot we walked the whole way, and it's still like, it's been maybe what 2-3 years now since we did it. It's still like, I'm still like, did I actually do it? Yeah, I did. And like even now, it's such a surreal experience. And
I bet. I bet.
and it furthered my belief in and along the way we'd be walking, we'd get, the cars would be, the exhaust would be, if there's be smoke coming out, we'd inhale it because we were walking like on the side streets, basically on the
The
pavement.
road, yeah.
Yeah, on the road. So the car, we were sharing the space with the cars, so you actually realize a lot how much pollution you're inhaling, because you're on the street with them, and how much pollution there is generally. And you're just walking around and you're seeing garbage everywhere, every single step
Yeah, that must
taken
be crazy. Yeah.
every single step taken along the whole road, there was some sort of rubbish, so, and not to mention the rubbish in the Nile. So it just and you know not to mention that I saw a lot of wildlife as well. So the mixture itself, I'm like, hey, there's so much
Just doesn't
trash,
sense.
and it's such a shame because that area in Egypt is very beautiful.
Very, it's very
Very,
green. Kind of looks a little
very
like Canada.
green. Yeah, it's very green, and there are areas where there are these like mountains really close to the Nile, and it's just very, very, very nice area. Very calm, and you feel like, and it's spoiled by trash in the Nile, pollution from the cars, and like I said, I saw a lot of wildlife, and I'm like, what's the effect on of these things on the wildlife? What's
Yeah, they're
happening?
probably ingested.
Uh, eh, Ingested, get stuck in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things that can happen. So it also got me to focus a little bit on wildlife as well, wildlife conservation, which is one of my next projects as well that I'm working on right now.
Okay,
Um,
amazing. I wanted to ask you, so what was the longest time were you on the road? Like once.
for at once, three
Yeah,
months.
I mean, yeah, 3 months. So that's when you were going from west to east in Europe, or was
No,
that north to south?
That's north to south in Europe. That took me 3 months, and also Asia took me 3 months.
So can you walk me through like how your day goes? So you have a backpack, you have your tent, your sleeping bag, and you're just cycling, and then you get tired, you pick up your tent, or do you stay in like places throughout and like towns?
It depends.
Like
So
how does it go?
it depends. It's a mix. So if, like, let's say in Norway, in the very start, the distance from each city to city was over 200 kilometers. And
Okay,
at the time, I wasn't able to do 200 kilometers a day. Now I can, but at the time I couldn't. I was only able to do 100. So I would just cycle until my maximum, and then I'd stop. I had my sleeping bag and my tent. I'd pitch my tent, sleep, and I'd ration for the day that I know I'm gonna camp in, to have snacks and food. I'd sleep. I'd wake up and continue on the bike. Others
okay.
which let
So
Yeah, others which, let's say, I would try and basically, as much as I can, to travel from a city to a city, or from a village to a village. So I started a village and ended a village. That way, I have food options I can eat, and sometimes I hosts. Sometimes I find locals. They'd be like, "Hey, where are you coming from?" "Oh, I'm coming from over there." "Oh, you're cycling? You've been cycling for a month? Hey, come stay at my place. I'll make you food. I'll make you tea. I'll have a
amazing.
shower.
So you
I'll
get to
wash your
connect
clothes."
with people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So then I'd stay at people's places. I stayed a lot. I'd say maybe at like a lot of different people's places. And
Okay.
if at any point, like let's say one time in Spain, I arrived to this village, tiny village in Spain, and it was their like national day or something for that village, not for the whole of Spain, but for that village. And there was like in Spain, usually they have like these they call it like a pensione, which is like a small guest house above the neighborhood or like the local village bar. So it's basically like the only rooms in the whole village, was probably like 5 rooms, I think, were taken because of this national day, and I had to camp out basically outside the city. So it was a mixture of you know,
Sometimes that, yeah. Okay.
yeah, sometimes this, sometimes that, depends on the situation, and I usually make the decision on the spot. You know, if I find something I can stay
Gotcha.
in, I can. If someone gives me an invitation, I'll take it. If I can't, then I just can't. So
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. I am actually like, so I did not think, I only thought you did like one trip in Europe, and that was kind of like where you got the record. I didn't realize you've been doing it for so long, especially when you talked about doing that in Montreal. I did my university in Winnipeg, which is a little bit colder than Montreal, but not too much. Like I know the -30 and the -35. And I would like if I walk outside for like 20 minutes, I'm just like, I'm done, right? There's ice everywhere on my mustache, on my beard. So it's very it's amazing how you kind of got into that in the cold, being an Egyptian coming from Egypt to Montreal, and then just loving it. Whereas I think most people, it's safe to say that most people, when they do get through winter, they're just like, they're not that impressed by the winter in Canada because it is very cold, especially in cities like Montreal and Winnipeg. So amazing, amazing. I'm just yeah, I cannot believe it's amazing what you did. Like amazing achievements, great job. So I kind of wanted to ask you. You talked a little bit about how you have a family business that does like your family business does something related to cleaning waterways and protecting coasts from climate change. Is that where you still work?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
I'm talking to you from the office right now.
amazing. Could you tell me maybe a little bit about that? What is it that you exactly do? How does it help clean the waterways? Yeah, just a little bit about that.
So basically, there's multiple things that dredging works for. The
So
climate
is
change aspect.
the company is called dredging?
No, no, the company is called Satco, but
Saco,
the
okay.
industry we mostly work in is the dredging industry.
I'm
Uh,
not sure I know what that means.
okay, so
Dredging.
dredging, basically, I'll explain to you briefly what dredging is. Dredging is basically the removal of sediment, okay,
Okay.
from beneath the water. Okay, that is the
Okay.
act of dredging, of removing sand from the seafloor. Okay, so
Tamam.
why would someone want to remove sand from the seafloor? Okay, or not sand, sediment, because it can be rock, it can be clay, it can be anything. Let's say you have a coastline, the Mediterranean coastline, for example. I know you were in Sahel this summer. I don't know exactly where along the coastline you went to, but I'm pretty sure one of the areas you went to, you'd find rock on the coast. You'd find that the sand has been eroded, and you can see bare rock. And
Yes.
people are complaining more about rock that's showing. They'd say, "Hey, it didn't used to be like this. There used to be only sand. There used to be so and so and so."
That's
So
actually
what you
true.
have, yeah.
That's what
So
I
what you
felt
have,
at least. Yeah.
yeah. So what you have is coastal erosion happening from the waves hitting the beach, uh, um, and over time, climate change, as the water level rises, you have this erosion happening further and further inland. So what you had as a coastline will become uh, um, smaller, and your coastline will shift backwards. So if you had people living on the coast, they would uh, basically, the waves would hit their
Their
houses,
houses.
or
Yeah.
the sand or earth that the house is built on would start eroding because of the erosion of sediments next to it, and the effect of the water, etc., etc. So dredging, what does dredging do? Dredging, actually, the biggest country who is involved in dredging, and they're the best at, is the Netherlands. And why are Netherlands great at dredging? Is because the Netherlands is below sea level. So it's a country that's below sea level. And they are afraid that as climate and global warming happens, that their whole country will be
Sink.
underwater. So they started, so they need to protect themselves. They need to save the whole country. So they got really good at dredging, and dredging, basically they would take sand from inside of the sea, and they would spray it all over the coastline. So the coastline that was getting eroded became reclaimed. So instead of your coastline getting eroded, you would extend your coastline and have sand that you sprayed onto you got from the using the dredge onto the coastline, so you would protect the beach. Do you understand? Did I explain it well, or do
Yes.
you see?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So it's kind of
So
trying to prevent the water from shifting
exactly,
inland.
exactly. So
Okay.
so yeah. So a dredge is a boat. Basically, it's a boat that sucks sand from the seafloor. Could be 1 kilometer in, 2 kilometers, or whatever, and then it takes that sand, and basically you can deposit it wherever you want. So if
And
let's say
that
you want
kind of
to,
helps with the rising sea levels. So that's
exactly, it's called beach
okay.
nourishment.
Beach
Beach
nourishment.
nourishment.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So you're nourishing the beach to help with not necessarily rising sea level, because you can have a rising sea level, but you know the erosion isn't that much. It's mostly against erosion, coastal erosion. So it's the rising sea level um, with the effect of erosion. Another aspect that's happening is that you have some lakes in the delta region that are becoming evaporated. Uh,
Like completely, like they're just
yes,
turning dry.
yes, they're turning dry, which is a result of many things. It's a result of the locals throwing stuff in the water,
Of
and the
course.
and the uh, uh, the depth of the lake became much less, and just the and there was some of the locals living around taking some of the water and turning it into farmland, so it just became small. So basically a lot of different combinations, sewage going and killing all the fish, and a bunch of different combinations that are leading to basically the death of this lake. And of course the government took notice to it, and are trying to, of course, basically revive the lake back to its previous uh, like size and depth and everything. So dredging also helps with that, cleaning everything, and cleaning everything from the water, and making the depth lower, and removing all the whatever rubbish, sand, whatever extra things are in the lake. So
So
yeah, so dredging.
would it do the same thing it does for sand for like garbage or plastic? Like would it pull plastic and then kind of do it like that? Is that a part
if
of it?
if there is plastic that is in a large area, so let's say like the the Great Garbage Patch, if you heard of that,
Yes. Yeah,
in
of
the
course.
Pacific. Yeah. So if there is a place where there is plastic, and there is a lot of plastic, then yeah, it can. But I think the problem with plastic is that it's scattered everywhere. and
Yeah, it's
not just
very
that. I
small
think,
too.
yeah, especially the microplastics, that's even worse,
Yeah,
because that is these are like microscopic pieces, so you can't even see them. But
and you
it
see
could
that a
be.
lot in the North Coast lately. Like this past year was my first year. If you get like a strainer or a musfire, and you take some sand and just kind of like put the sand away, you're actually gonna end up with like a bunch of like really small plastic, like all
Yeah,
the different
yeah.
colors, red, blue,
and
green. Like
and
you
you
never
know
know
the
what
problem.
it is. It's just
Yeah,
plastic.
and you know the problem with microplastics is that they that a lot of the companies that are advertised as biodegradable are not
That's
actually
them.
biodegradable,
Yeah.
because what they do is that they, yes, the plastic bag degrades in a month or two, but it's
But it
still
degrades into
degrading into plastic,
microplastic.
into microplastic, exactly. So it is degrading, but it is just degrading into microplastics, and that's the main issue now. The EU Parliament. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Your voice kind of went further for a second.
Oh,
Yeah, now it's back. Perfect.
yeah, you can hear me.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Which the EU Parliament basically picked up on last year, and a lot of the companies now are switching to being what they call as compostable. So basically, you can literally throw your plastic bag in your garden and it will become fertilizer.
Compost. Yeah.
And it does not have any plastic. It's made from organic matter, and it hasn't it hasn't been perfected yet, especially for plastic alternatives. But there is a lot of research being done on it, on what's the best material to use.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit better with that, like at least in terms of people trying to figure out what to do with it, like people trying to figure out what's the best way to
Yeah.
to approach it. I'm just going to ask you for 1 second. I need to get my laptop charger. Just 1 second. um, okay. Okay, well, that's amazing. I did not know something like that existed. I was definitely aware about the rising sea levels, and I read it quite a scary article actually about a year and a half ago about how the Delta area and Alexandria is expected to experience a lot of like rising sea levels, and maybe in 50 years that whole part is kind of like what you were talking about with the Netherlands. But then hearing that there are technologies like that kind of makes me feel that okay, that's not necessarily going to happen. Maybe we can still turn the boat around, which is very cool.
Mm.
Um, okay, so again, that's amazing, and definitely after podcast want to talk to you more about that. But something else I always like to ask anyone that I host on here is like you had an amazing life path so far. I mean, you've been to Canada. You did a lot of cycling. You crossed Europe. You crossed Asia, north to south and east to west for Europe. Um, Walking a path of life like that comes with a lot of challenges. So I was kind of wanting to ask you, what were like some of the biggest challenges that you had in your life? And you were saying earlier that kind of preparing to do something new in the next little bit. So maybe what were some of the challenges you already overcame, and what are some of the challenges you currently see on your path going forward with what you're doing?
So one of my major, like my main goals right now, which started after I completed, my walk and all these things. I saw a lot of wildlife, which I was telling you about. And one of my main things now is wildlife conservation. And one of my next projects is basically I can't reveal a lot of details, but what I can tell you is that there is a specific species of animal that is critically endangered, and basically no one knows that it exists in Egypt. And it was last seen 20 years ago in 1998.
Wow.
By a research team from University of Pennsylvania and another local university here. So right now, no one knows what its status is. Is it still in Egypt? Have they gone extinct? Nothing. It's never been photographed. Nothing. So my next project, basically, which I'm working with a few different entities here, is basically doing this little documentary and trying to find this animal, which we don't know whether it's still alive or not. Which when people
So
know,
you're gonna go on a hunt for an animal that no one has seen in 20 years.
Yes, no one.
I love
no
that.
one has seen. No one has seen, and no one even knows that it existed in Egypt, because it's such an animal that you're like, what? This lives here? I thought it live in Egypt. So and hopefully we do find them, and we do something to protect them, to conserve them. And to raise awareness about wildlife, and then also taking care of what's around us, what's sharing our planet with us. So we're not alone on the planet, and we need to be conscious of everything, not just other people, but other animals, plants, everything. We all rely on the same things. So that's my next project.
So that's maybe your next biggest challenge is going out to find an animal that you haven't found in 20 years, which is insane. What was maybe some of the challenges you already overcame, but you felt like maybe in one of your hikes one of your cycling trips, you had like a really hard challenge? Like I know stuff like that. Like I hike out here a lot in the Rockies, and a lot of times I get challenges. Some of it is like, well, we're in the middle of a hike and now there's 2 bears in the trail, so we need to go back, or just things like that. So I was kind of curious, was there any, oh, I'm sure there was, but is there anything that comes to your mind about like something that happened while you were on one of your trips or one of your adventures that made you like think like, oh my
There's
God,
a
like
lot,
what am I doing? Like
the list is there's a big list of things that happened that either I felt danger, or it was maybe a life and death situation. Ranging from getting kind of nearly mugged, or nearly in Cambodia by like a child gang, to like getting stuck in a thunderstorm in the Apennino Mountains in Italy, and having a lightning basically like touch down maybe like a few meters away from me. There's a lot of different things. However, like I can't say that you're asking like overcame, right? You mentioned that word, overcame, right?
yeah, or overcame, or just like went through, like what I mean.
Because I like part of my like life ethos is that there is never like a finish line. There is never something that you say, hey, you know, I'm done, or this is what I'm doing, and this I finished, and this is it. It's always, you know, it's pretty dynamic. Like what you feel is not just your goal, or what you feel you want to be, or your vision of who you are in the future. It's pretty dynamic. So my own opinion, I'll never feel that it's like gonna be done, or be just saying, hey, I overcame this, or I accomplished this, I'm done now. So yeah, so it's kind of like with each thing that's been done, and each experience that I experienced, there's something more that I view, or there's something more that I look ahead to.
First of all, just let me say, I absolutely love the mindset, and I completely agree. Things are never done, um, and it's just anything that you keep doing just keeps feeding you more and more. And as you said, it's dynamic. It's not really, oh, I finished something now, so now it's done. Like what is done, right? We're gonna keep living. We might as well keep doing great things, right? So that's
Right.
uh, that's amazing. Okay, so let me flip the question. Okay, uh, was there a moment in your life that kind of gave you a reassurance of, or made you positive that you are on the right path? So I'll share a story. I started the idea of Thalassins was about a year and 3 months ago. What happened is that I've been living in Canada for so long. I came back to Egypt and kind of got stuck there through COVID. I've always been to like snorkeling, kite surfing, diving, all that stuff. So um, Canada, I had like 7 years of university work, just kind of like go go go, and then when COVID happened, I had like a few months of like things were quiet for the first time in a very long time. So I just instantly went back to my old self, picked up my snorkel, picked up my fins, and just kind of went back to exploring the small reefs of the Red Sea. I don't like going to popular reefs. Like, I mean, I love them, but I also have like small nursery reefs that I know of in Ras Sedr and Ain Sokhna that not a lot of people think that they're like absolutely beautiful. But anyways, I remember jumping into these reefs like 8 years before that point, and they were alive. Um, 8 years later, I went there and they were gray. There was no colors. There was almost no fish. So I started looking a little bit more, and I find a lot of like garbage on the reef. So I started, slowly like home and just take them out of the reef. Anyways, that kind of transformed into like beach cleanups. And one of the days, it was in Ramadan, not this past one, the one before it, I did the cleanup maybe like an hour before iftar, and then there was like 20 minutes before the sunset. So I went to take just a quick dip. And I'm just like lying down, I had just did my ACL surgery, so I was still a little bit wobbly. So I'm like doing nothing, lying down in shallow water, like maybe this big. And then I had 20 to like 25 dolphins just like come at me out of nowhere. I kept making noises. They
Wow.
came really close, and they
Yeah.
kept like I was standing water here, and they kept kind of like circling around me, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna like hit my leg, right? So I put my leg out, and I just stayed there for 20 minutes. That moment was like, okay, I know for a fact this happened, and this is kind of just telling me that I need to keep cleaning that place up, because I just got thanked by a greater power. For me, that was kind of like their way of being like, you're gonna like keep going. So that was my moment that reassured me and made me positive that this is kind of my calling. So I'm 100% sure you have multiple moments of those. Would love to hear about one that comes to your mind though.
Sorry, I didn't hear this part. Can you repeat?
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, I'm sure you have like multiple moments of those, like things that happened in your path
Yeah,
that made
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
feel
so
like.
many.
So
Like I
I'd love
told
to
you,
hear your favorite one, maybe.
it's so hard, but like as I said before, like in the beginning of the talk, when I mentioned the word serendipitous. So my favorite basically experiences or events that happen in my life are the ones that are serendipitous, which means it just happens like out of kind of a mixture of luck and fate and a little bit of your planning and just a bunch of different things that happen that give you this certain experience in your life that if just one thing was a little bit off, it would not have happened.
Been the same.
And basically going from, hey, I'm gonna buy a bicycle, which was serendipitous, to like my coach, the ski coach that I had, just happened to turn out that he had cycled across the US, which he cycled across a continent, which not a lot of people even do. So it's just these types of luck, which this serendipity, which I view as kind of like has a little bit of meaning, that it was kind of, it meant to happen. And these are my favorite kind of moments.
I see what you mean. Okay. Okay. Is there any like certain situation in mind that you remember that kind of like stands out, or were they just all amazing?
Let me see. Well, this one's a little bit it's not something like adventure or anything, but it's one of my favorite because it's one of the first times that I kind of believed in this positive energy and what you give out to the world you get in return, and this kind of ethos is when I was actually in Canada. I was in Montreal, and I was walking. I remember I was really into these like outdoor clothes, and I was doing lots of different outdoor activities. So I was buying all these different things. So I just gotten these new outdoor boots to keep me warm and against the snow and the wet and the cold and everything. So after maybe around a week, my boots, one of them got like torn from the like sole. I'm like, what? That's expensive, and like, what happened? How did this happen? And the next day, I was walking, and I'm really sad about what happened to my boots, and I'm wearing different, like my old ones, and like I'm just really upset. And I'm walking down the street, really right next to where I was living, like literally, like just 20 meters away from where I was living. And I look to the side and I find a small shop that basically what it does was fix boots. So it's just a small shop that does nothing but fix boots. So I think that it's one of my favorite moments.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, it's just
it was just there for you. 20
it was just there
meters
for me,
away from where you live.
just there for me, and it's weird that I never even realized it was there, and it's right next to my house, and it came at the time where I really needed it. So I these kind of moments, they're kind of surreal, and you feel a little bit of spirituality also with it.
Lovely. I love this. Okay, Helmy, I have one more question.
Sure.
It's not really a question. It's more like this is a point where I just kind of give you the floor. Usually I ask people, like, you can tell us something you've been working on. You can tell us what it's about. You can tell us how to help you and support you. Or if you have a message you want to just tell people so that they are more mindful and they about their whatever it is, whether it's the consumption habits or their carbon footprints or whatever it is. Like if there's one thing you'd want to tell a large group of people, what would it be?
Well, I'm always what do I'm usually not I don't like to tell people what to do because I feel that you know, there are many things in which you can do the same thing. So let's say I want to open a book, for example. I think there are many ways in which you can open a book. There's no one right way. But one thing that I do believe in, which I think everyone should, is basically to follow their gut instinct, what they feel is right, because what you feel is right is not necessarily what someone else feels is right. Right can mean, you know,
So
many
many
different
things.
things to many different things, people. So, but as long as you feel it's right, that's the most important thing. Your own instinct about whatever it is you're doing. So yeah, so I think that's one thing I would say.
Follow your heart, follow your gut. I think that's
Exactly.
amazing. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. Well, Helmy, I don't know, but this has been such a pleasure. I feel so inspired by you right now. I kind of just want to go pick up my bike and go down some trails right now, to be honest.
Well,
So
I'm
yeah,
glad you
maybe I'll do
enjoyed.
that tonight, actually. Cool. Yeah, no, amazing. And again, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Anytime, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm really happy we had this discussion. And you know, if there is anything you have a little bit of an idea about Thalassins and what we do, we've been hosting big cleanups in the Red Sea, and we will continue to do so at least once every week. We're going out and kind of cleaning the beach. But I am very when you talked about that thing that kind of like pulls plastic. So it's something on my mind. So maybe at some point in the future, if we do find a part in the Red Sea, which I think there will be a part, it won't be anything like the garbage patch, but some of these currents come sometimes and they end up getting a bunch of just a lot of plastic bags and stuff floating in the same area. If we do find that point, I'll definitely be in contact to see maybe how we can help each other pick them up more efficiently. Right on. Okay, Helmy. Well, again, thank you so much. That was great, and yeah, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Okay. You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Helmy. Bye.
Bye.